98 Not Out, sponsored by Shepherd Neame, proud supporters of cricket in Essex.
Big welcome to the show, to the voice of England, Mr. Graham Woodward. Graham, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, Brett. How are you?
Yeah, we're not too bad now.
There's that voice.
there is a voice, you know. So as people can place that voice a bit better, you do all the announcing for all the England Test matches?
That's right, yeah, England Test matches since 2013. And prior to that, I've done about 8-9 years of domestic T20, so travelling around doing the games that were covered on TV. And as well as that, before that, and still at Sussex, and also again for the last 5-6 years, pretty much most games at Lord's.
This is weird, having a conversation with someone that normally doesn't have conversations. As an announcer, you just say, you know, whatever, you make your announcements and the new batsman is and all that kind of stuff. So it does seem a bit weird to be interacting with such a familiar voice.
I apologise now for being actually dull in real life.
Having spent time with you, I know that's not true. So at the moment, you're obviously Lord's, end of day 2. I suppose frustrating and good cricket as well.
Some fantastic cricket, actually, yes. And to be honest, the weather forecast was kind of totally wrong, got it the wrong way round, but we've had some good play. We actually started today in gorgeous sunshine. I mean, I think I'm sure many people watching the streams that are covering the match. And yeah, we've had all seasons, but I can tell you tonight at 5:45, just as Brown and Cookie went to walk out to the middle, they'd have been delighted that once they got to the middle, it was too dark. It was honestly, it was like winter out there, and didn't have to face those 3 overs because they would have been lethal.
I was actually watching the stream, and I just turned around to Darren, and I was just like, "Look how dark it is!"
Yeah,
it just went from nowhere, didn't it?
It really was, ultra dark, one of the darkest I've seen, at any time. But obviously, the umps want to go out to the middle and take their reading and stuff. But yeah, it was one of those things only in cricket that they actually got to the middle, everyone got in place, then walked straight off again.
Yeah, common sense would have said, "Look, just don't bother."
What's the atmosphere been like there over the last day or two? I mean, it's the first cricket that's been played at Lord's this year, I believe, or first-class cricket anyway.
Yeah, it is. It's very strange, and obviously there's all the rebuilding work taking place on the nursery end of the ground, so the whole of that shut off. So, yeah, regardless of the situation, obviously we'd have had that as a factor this year anyway. It is. It's very strange. It's very eerie, and I mean, I did the first 3 Test matches of the summer, and then they decided that we weren't needed. And it's very eerie, but having covered a lot of cricket over the years, particularly at Lord's, where you do get championship games where, although there's, a couple of thousand people in, it seems very quiet, and it's the same at the Oval, Edgbaston, grounds like that. I think the players have probably got used to it, because I think one of the factors of having the PA announcer in the first place, talking to Richard Kettleborough after the Test match, at Emirates Old Trafford, he said actually it does kind of give a real feeling to the game, because there's so much there isn't, and obviously for the players, I think they've had to adapt to that, and I think obviously they would have got used to just playing very quiet with quiet conditions, which must have been weird in the blast.
Yeah,
a few games played music, but I think that was probably where it really would have hit home.
For the spectators, sorry, go on.
No, it's but very strange. But it's just unfortunate because I know that this was originally planned to have a couple of days for test crowds, of testing, having 1,000 or 2,000 in, which in hindsight, and this is what we said, unfortunately, some of the situation, obviously following government guidelines and stuff, but 1,000 people in Lord's, you put that into context to 1,000 people in Taunton, Hove or Chelmsford. Yeah, it's very, very different. And it's just a shame we couldn't do it. And but obviously with the way that times are, fully understandable.
For the spectator or the TV watcher, it's quite interesting. It's a bit like football, that you can hear a lot more of what's going on out in the middle. Yeah, and you can hear the sort of the chat that goes on, and also learn a few nicknames that you never knew existed as well.
I think it's probably a bit people hearing a bit more than some of the players would like in both football and cricket. But yeah, no, it is. It's great. And I mean, one of the advantages that we tend to have particularly on the internationals, we tend to have the stump mic, and you can hear it a lot clearer. And I know the last year or two, the TV audiences have got that if you really listen closely, and the commentators sometimes pick up on that. But you do get to see the games in a completely different light, and I think a few of the players have probably realised and cottoned on to the fact that they've got to be a bit more careful what they say, whereas maybe a few aren't so worried,
I guess you must sense, you get the feeling of players getting sort of elated and then feeling quite flat much quicker than you would in a normal game.
Yeah, very much. I think everyone's just aware of the times, and we were discussing yesterday about celebrations and what players are doing and what they should do, and then obviously the time where they, just the moment they actually forget, they forget the situation, and obviously, the team bonding 9 times out of 10 is, they're very close to the guys, and they want to celebrate. And there was a great moment today where Byron got his 100. And he played superbly. First time I've actually seen him play live, and he played some fantastic shots, got his 100, and his reaction. And at the time, I just thought, it just goes to show how much it does mean. When you're watching the cricket, which is so quiet and different and ordinary, and you almost think you're just watching a non-event, and then you get something special like that happens, and the emotion that he showed when he got his century brings you back to how important it is, for these players, and for the game.
I can remember getting my first 100. Unfortunately, it was on the golf course. We just had a listener
on Yarmouth Beach.
Well, funny you should talk about that part of the world. We've just had one of our regular listeners, Mr. Dan Haggart, has just messaged in, and he said, "Did you know Graham Woodward also does the mic at the National Banger Racing Final at Ipswich?"
He does. He doesn't say that. He didn't say he did it well. I might add.
You do everything well. You do everything well.
You've got a few sporting strings to the bow, isn't there?
I do, yes. Well, I mean, I've always had a great love of sport, and I kind of try and specialise in sort of a few areas, although that's open to debate. But yeah, I've been quite lucky since I started this at a very young age. I've kind of stayed with those sports, and it's funny to mention because the motor racing, the stock cars that I've done, has kind of added a bow recently because it's a TV online channel which has gone particularly well, which is about the one good thing to come out of COVID, because obviously people have wanted to be entertained at home. But I think what it kind of shows, and I was talking to this with one of my colleagues today actually, is it's being able to do Lords and then go and do that, or one of the other things obviously is horse racing and greyhound racing, which I've also done. Being able to commentate on a dog race or a stock car race, and then the next day doing a test match at Lords. And I think that's the one thing I always try and say to people. It's being versatile within the job, and being able to adapt to the surroundings. And I remember the very first time I did Lords after taking over from the great Johnny Dennis, who was the voice of English cricket for many years, was that when I did Lords, I didn't want people to notice. I didn't want people to turn around and say, "Oh, this bloke's very good." Equally, obviously, I didn't want them to turn around and say, "Who on earth's this?" I just wanted it to be natural. I just wanted it to almost go unnoticed.
How did it happen? Did someone ring you up and say, you are going to be the next, or did you have to go through some kind of selection process? Or
Well, no, it was because of I'd been involved, obviously with T20, which is how I got to know the guys at Essex so very well, and Brett indeed, and funny enough, have a close association with Somerset and Essex because we did so many T20 games during that time in those venues. And the story had gone that I'd done Sussex from when I was 18, 19. And kind of fell into the role as I fell into the other sports that I did. And I basically I did a media course, which was equivalent to A-levels, but turned down university because I'd actually already covered 2.5 years of the syllabus. But I kind of fell into the job, really. And then while I was at Sussex, this is going back to the days, we're talking now 1963. No, maybe not quite, but no, when, late 90s, 2000, and just when floodlit cricket and was coming in and started to take over, and once T20 started, it was decided that they wanted a neutral voice to do the games on the telly that match with the guys on Sky who they knew what they were going to get basically. And I was lucky enough one night that we were at Hove and we did a game, and I got approached and asked whether I would be interested in sort of doing some stuff. I think they tried to use some celebrities or well-known voices, or people that people could relate to. But the problem was they didn't have the cricket knowledge, which is obviously a huge factor because you do not want to be saying something that people end up laughing at, and the crowd straight away lose any respect. And I was very fortunate; I got picked up, and I did my first game effectively for the ECB was a T20 quarter-final at Grace Road, when obviously Leicester were a very, very good side at that time in that format of the game, and I did that, and then from the following season started doing that. So I was always involved. And then Johnny Dennis, who I can't speak highly enough of, a great voice and a great person who did Lords for many years at England. And I think I'd probably done 4 or 5 years of T20, and I went to a test match and sat with Johnny and learned more from him in shadowing him for a few games than I learned from any other teacher about pace and delivery. And I look back at my early stuff and I cringe at how I used to do things, but he was a great teacher. So I basically, when Johnny was carrying on, it was 2013, and we got the Champions Trophy that year. And we got the Ashes, and I think we played New Zealand in the early series, and Johnny fell ill during the New Zealand series. And I was due to do the Champs Trophy anyway because of the amount of travelling involved. And unfortunately, Johnny fell ill. And basically, during the Champs Trophy, it became apparent he wasn't going to be able to do the Ashes. So there I was, basically my first test match was the test match at Trent Bridge in 2013, which was a fantastic game. It was the one where Ashton Agar very nearly got Australia back from a dead position. I went to day 5, lunch was delayed, massive crowd, great weather, and it was one of those games you look back and you think, well, do you know what? This, for a first test match and for a game, what a game to sort of remember, because it was a great finish. But it was one that was a busy summer, and Johnny recovered and was then able to carry on doing Lords for a couple of years. But it was quite apparent that because of his condition he couldn't travel. So I kind of finished the year doing the internationals, and then that winter they went through like an audition process where they said to me, look, you're going to be involved, but obviously we have to now put it out there to see what's around. And I said, yep, absolutely no problem whatsoever. And the next year we had like an audition process. And 7 years on, somehow I'm still involved. So very fortunate. But it was the process of going to a test match on 3 or 4 occasions, and just sitting with Johnny, knowing him, and just learning from him. Was a great advantage, as, to be honest, was doing the T20, because I travelled the grounds, I got to know everybody involved, some great people around the circuit, we have great fun, great banter, and for me that's part of it and what makes it.
So it was good. Now I've got to take you back to last summer.
Yeah.
And obviously, well, first off, let's go with the World Cup final.
Yeah, fantastic, wasn't it? I mean, it was just incredible, and it was I had to keep telling myself that I was working. And I think the thing was as well, the emotions. We'll perhaps come on to the presentation, because the presentation was quite amusing afterwards. There's a great line on that. But I was kind of getting myself prepared for the presentation. So I got myself prepared that New Zealand were going to win from the position England were in. I then got myself in the position that England were going to win. And then I kind of got myself in the position that New Zealand were going to win again. It was like such a flip-flop, but it was great. I mean, it was a fantastic game. And as always, I always say this at so many live events, that the emotion and drama in that ground. You know, people on their feet. I
don't think Lord's ever been like it, had it?
Absolutely. It was just amazing, electric. I mean, we've joked since, I think there were more people passing out on that afternoon late for the being cared for than there have been in the last 10 years at Lord's, you know. But no, it was an amazing experience. It was fantastic. And obviously I was very proud, probably the proudest moment of my career when we did the presentation, which went to, I think, 8 billion people, you know, with me doing the trophy lift, which I was very proud of, because obviously to win for the first time, that will always be seen. And yeah, there's always that sort of feeling, well, I haven't really achieved that much in life, but that's one thing that I will when I finish. You know, yeah, exactly.
Do you manage a few beers afterwards?
Well, we did, but I tell you, the problem was it had been such a long road, and I don't know if you remember, we'd been delayed because we'd had rain in the morning. So this, as always, the scheduled close of play, which I think was probably about 6:30, ended up being 9 o'clock after everything. And I can't remember, I was flying back abroad the following morning. So because we'd had 3 weeks or whatever on the road, or even longer, 6 weeks on the road, I'd had a special birthday during that time.
25.
I was going to say, I only look 30, so that's not what I look like, but I was actually 40. But in terms of it, I'd basically not celebrated my birthday, so I went abroad on the Monday and had an early flight, so I had to get away. So Steve Watts, who's the other voice that you often hear, who does the T20 games a bit more now, and
Essex Race Goes will know him because he does the Chelmsford Racecourse as well, doesn't he?
He does, absolutely. He's involved with racing. And he does Chelmsford, Lingfield, and he also does a bit at Kent as well. And Steve and I have become good friends over the years, and we did go and manage and had a quick glass of something, but it wasn't what you'd imagine it might have been. And if we'd stayed in the hotel for another night, it certainly wasn't the night it would have been. But we both had to move on, but it was a fantastic occasion, and one that you look back on very, very fondly.
Can I just wind you back a little bit?
Yeah.
At a point that you made earlier on, which I've just sort of made a note of, is that when you're doing red ball cricket, whether it's a county championship game or whether it's a test match, the whole, I think the announcer kind of epitomises what the game is, that your delivery is very calm and measured and sort of factual almost,
Very much so, yeah.
The new batsman is Joe Root.
Yeah.
And it's very unemotional and whatever else. When you're switching from that to doing banger racing at Ipswich, which obviously is going to require a very, very different delivery, do you find it very easy just to slip into a different mode of announcing or?
Yeah, I think that's just something that's come with experience over the years. Arguably some would say I've probably done this too long now, but I think you adapt to the situation. And I think actually it doesn't even have to be as extreme to banger racing. I think the way that T20 is presented now, you look at finals day. I mean, I was lucky to do 12 finals days, I think. From doing a championship day to doing a blast finals day or a big one-day international, particularly at Edgbaston, which is always a fantastic atmosphere. Working with the music. You guys involved with radio, you'll be aware of, in and out of the music and doing things, and it's the same sort of thing. And with that, and it is being able to adapt to having, as you say, the slow pace confined, and particularly at Lord's. Lord's is a great example because at Lord's, it's a lot more well spoken, it's a lot more clear. And again, you have to be a little bit slower and clear and concise because the speaker system is so much bigger and it's going to more people and it's going to further sections of the ground. So you're speaking very concise.
Can you give us your Lord's voice?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was. I wouldn't put it on too much, but but I halfway went there. But it's. Actually, it was quite funny because when I did the Good Morning and Welcome to Lord's today and yesterday, it was actually a few people said they got quite emotional because obviously they've missed it so much. And
it's a big part of the whole day out.
Yeah, it is, and it's one of those little small things, isn't it? Which means a lot to so many people. But I think going back to the original question, it comes with experience. And now, it seems weird to say, but you just don't think about it. You just do the job which is required on the day, you know. And you just adapt to those conditions. But I don't know. I say almost make out it's easy, and that sounds big-headed and wrong. But it's just like
no, but it isn't.
It's just someone that gets used to something in a job. You know, it's like if you're cutting hair. You know, whether you're shaving a hair or whether you're doing a deep trim cut, whatever. You just do it, and you can just do it naturally after a time.
Yeah.
But that, to be honest with you, that is one of the hardest things about the job. You know, that is one of the hardest things to get in the first place. I remember as a kid, 15, 16, 14, 13, when I was young and I first started going to cricket, my whole process was, why aren't we being given this information? I mean, it was a different generation then, but why aren't we getting the 50s? Why aren't we getting bowling figures? You know, why aren't we making special things? Tonight, Sam Cooke, when he came off the field, I announced his fifer as if I would normally, and everybody around the reaction, everyone went mad for him. That's a special moment for him at Lord's.
Oh, yeah.
Just as it was for Somerset earlier with a century. And those things, you know, I always say that I can't do a lot in my job, but I always try and enhance the product. It's not about me, it's not about what we do, it's what about the players or the drivers or, you know, whoever we're doing. But if we can enhance and make something special out of something and improve the day for somebody, then we've done our job.
So, got to ask, favourite Test match? Was it last summer by any chance, or was there one that topped it for you?
Well, I mean, the first one, as I said, was very special, but obviously Headingley last year was just incredible. And apart from the fact that it took me a while to forgive Stokesy, because I'd already booked a ticket back on that morning to go back to Sussex. But no, it was just phenomenal, wasn't it? I mean, it was a roller coaster, and it was one of those. It's one of those, and for anybody that's been watching cricket for a long while, there are certain times where you just think this isn't going to happen. This isn't going to happen, and then as gradually it starts to happen, you don't want it. You don't want to let yourself believe it's going to happen, because you don't want the disappointment of just falling short. And actually, I mean, obviously, one of the big things we've done, and I touched on the World Cup, was obviously I do the presentations which go out on the world feed. So, and there's not a lot to be gained by that, because obviously if I make a mess up of that, then I'm going to get absolute grief. Whereas no one's going to turn around and say, "Yeah, did well there, boy." And that was one occasion where I actually had to go. Went to the bathroom, washed my face, and basically pulled myself together, because I'd lived it. Because you do care, you know, you do care. As time goes on, obviously, slightly difference in things, but you obviously want the guys to do well, and particularly guys that you get on with. Obviously, you know, Brett, from his time where, you know, when he works at Essex, he'll know that you get on better with certain players, and obviously you want them to do well, and that obviously is a key factor as well. But with England, of course, in that situation against Australia, you only want one result. But yeah, it's got to be that. But there's been some really, really great moments over the years, and some memorable ones that, you know, even if I finish now, which hopefully I won't, I'll remember for a long time to come. You know.
What is the future? What's next up for Graham Woodward?
Well, I'm doing. I've been asked to host next Thursday's quarter-final for Sussex Lancashire, which will be online. So I'm going to be hosting that quarter-final, which I'm looking forward to. Obviously doing these 5 days with the Bob Willis Trophy, and then obviously moving on, hopefully, we'll still be required to do, Test matches, the odd ODI, and a few games here and there, plus obviously carrying on at Lord's, which I enjoy very much, and down at Sussex, where I started. We've actually got the National Banger World Final next Saturday.
Wow.
Which sadly now looks like taking place behind closed doors.
What can people see that on?
So there's we basically have formed a new channel which is called Speedworth TV, which will be covering lots of events live. I do a weekly magazine programme on there, which is an hour-and-a-half show on a Friday night. Which
what was it? Speedworth?
Speedworth TV, and it's
right.
when people think speed as in SPEED, it's actually SPEDE. Worth TV, but yeah, I've got heavily involved in that this summer, and it's been nice, and it's been actually like relief, because like the cricket, I've done that all my life, and I've been able to go out and do some interviews with some old drivers and some old characters, and that's proved, touch wood, quite popular. So much so I got a second series of the show that I did, which starts next week, with a National Banger World Final special. But it's not just about National Bangers. You know, we have the National Hot Rod Formula, which is very much like Euro cars, cars you see, you know, on the long circuits. But it's a great thing, because that racing, you know, sadly, you know, near your Arena Essex closed not that long ago.
Yeah.
But where they race, you know, the beauty of it is you can see such a variety of formulas on an oval in front of you, and you can get hot rods, you can get bangers, you can get expensive cars, you can get, you know, your cheap rubbish.
So they still do the crazy ones?
With Destruction Derby, yeah, we still have Destruction Derbies. I mean, it's amazing actually how things have gone over the years, and obviously health and safety now is such a key factor in all sports. But no, it still happens, and it's still, you know, a great day out. And I always say to people, a lot of people still don't know it exists. You know, we've got a track down in Sussex at Arlington, where the Eastbourne Eagles used to, you know, did their speedway. We've done stock cars there, and it's where, again, I learnt an awful lot growing up on the mic. And, you know, people say to me, oh, I used to go there when I was a kid. Does it still happen? I said, yeah, very much so. And that's the thing. And it is still hugely popular. You know, our big events, you know, that if times were different, we'd have 10,000 people at Ipswich next week for that World Final. So hopefully there'll be quite a few watching on live on the channel. So that'll be good. No pressure.
You saw the numbers for the ECB stream yesterday on YouTube, or the Sky stream on YouTube?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. When I spoke to Sussex today about hosting their quarter final, I said, well, Fee, how many figures, how many people are going to be watching this?
Just
you know, and when he said, it's massive, isn't it? I mean,
239,000 yesterday watched the stream.
And I think I heard, talking to our friends at Middlesex, they had a stream which had 700,000 on at one point. And it's just incredible, but it's great, because it shows, you know, the love of the game at whatever level, you know.
It's nearly as popular as our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Very nearly. Getting there.
Not quite. Graham, what can we say? Thank you for taking loads of your time up. Go and warm up a bit more. Enjoy the rest of Lords.
I will, and for you guys, I will be hoping that Essex perform very, very well.
We're firmly neutral. As long as we see some good cricket and Essex win, we're fine.
Pleasure talking to you, Graham.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
For your time.
Keep well. Cheers.